everyone. So if my voice sounds a little hoarse, it's because my youngest daughter has a little bit of a cold, and so she ended up giving it to me. Usually, like, I get like phlegm buildup and all that stuff, and so of course it'll kind of like lay on your vocal cords. So I usually get that. But right now I'm taking like a medication, so it'll hopefully get better in a few days. So I was tagged in this video by Witchy Reads. I'll go and leave her channel down below. Check her out if you want to. So this one's called the Coffee Book Tag. So it has different coffee options and stuff. One of the things that they had said was that, you know, like choose like maybe like there's different coffees that you like. Usually, like I haven't been drinking a lot of coffee lately because my doctor tells me not to, you know, try to stay with the caffeine and all that stuff. But I'd say like if I choose a coffee, I usually like the caramel macchiato. I like that one a lot. Or anything that's like a caramel or like a frappuccino, like a caramel frap. I like those too. Or if I'm going through like maybe like a tea option, I like oolong tea. I like English breakfast. I like Thai tea. Those are like my favorites. I usually kind of go with anything like that. And I like mine with like a lot of sugar, a lot of cream. But like I said, I've been trying to like weed down the amount of like coffee I drink because it's not, you know, a lot of sugar. So the first one is number 1, Black. Name a series that's tough to get into but has hardcore fans. I would say probably anything that's Sarah J. Maas because she has such a hardcore fan base. And for me, I have a feeling that I might not enjoy her books. And if I don't enjoy the books, I'm afraid like somebody's gonna be like, how dare you not like, you know, her books. So that's why I would say they're probably hard to get into because the fan base is just massive, you know, it's just ridiculous. So number 2, Peppermint Mocha. So it says, name a book that gets more popular during the winter or festive time of year. I don't know. I mean, honestly, I couldn't think of anything. I'm trying to think of like what you would read during the festive time of year besides like a lot of people will read like Christmas books and stuff like that, you know, like in the winter time, but I can't think of like a particular book that I would say gets like popular during Christmas time. I don't know. That one I had no idea. So number 3 says Hot Chocolate. What is your favorite children's book? I have several. I have several favorite children's books. So I had picked up this one here. It's based on like Goodnight Moon, but this is the Golden Girls. And I just thought it was adorable because I love the Golden Girls. I used to watch that show with my mom. So we got this one here is Goodnight Girls. It's so cute. It's just such a cute book. You know, so it says, this is Blanche, Rose, and Dorothy. They are going to have a sleepover. And this is Ma. So it's just, it's a cute book. It's getting late, girls. Finish up your cheesecake, Ma says. It's time for bed. But the girls do not want to go to bed. They're having so much fun. It's so funny because if you watch the show, the actress there, B. Arthur, hated cheesecake. She hated cheesecake, and there was like several, you know, like scenes a lot where they had to either eat cheesecake or look like they were eating cheesecake. It's so funny. So there's that book. And then the other book here, this one here, I would say it could be a kid's book, but I'd say it's more for like a parent. It's more a parent book because it's very emotional. So it's Love You Forever. And it's about this little boy that grows up and the mother, you know, goes and rocks him to sleep. And it has a thing at the end where it always says, I'll love you forever. I'll like you for always. As long as I'm living, my baby you'll be. And it's a mother raising her child and all of the little things that, you know, happens during the child growing up. And she, rocks the child to sleep, even though no matter how big he gets, she tries to rock him to sleep. And then it shows over the years, his mother was getting too old to rock him. And it's at the end of the book where it shows that, he's older. His mother's calling him, and, she was too old and sick to, like, really, hold him and rock him and sing him to sleep and all that stuff. So at the end, he's holding his mother, and it's so sad. It gets me to cry all the time I read it. It's such an emotional book. And then at the very end, it shows he has his own child. So I just think it's such a sweet book that people were like shitting on it earlier, like shitting on it before, saying like, oh, it's problematic. And I'm like, it's a book. It's a book about this little boy growing up, his mother always being there for him, and then at the end it shows how he's going to do the same thing with his child. Like, he's always going to be there for his child. He's always going to show that he loves his child. So it's such a sweet book, and I didn't understand like the hate that people were giving it, saying like, oh, it's problematic. And I'm like, well, maybe if you didn't have a good parent growing up, maybe it would be problematic. But to me, it's like, it is a sweet novel. And it's just, I've always been a fan of it. I've had this copy for years. Like, my daughters weren't really interested in reading it. But like I said, it's definitely more of like a parent book. Like, it gets you to like start bawling your eyes out reading it. So the next book that is a favorite of mine that I've loved for years, I've had this copy for a long time. So we got Alexander and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day. This has like always been my favorite because he talks about how he wants to move to Australia because he thinks that if he moves to Australia, he won't have bad days. So the beginning starts out with where he says, I went to sleep with gum in my mouth and now there's gum in my hair. And when I got out of bed this morning, I tripped on the skateboard and by mistake, I dropped my sweater in the sink while the water was running, and I could tell it was going to be a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. And there's really like not a lot of like periods in here because it's basically you're in the mind of a child. So usually children don't have like proper ways of like explaining to you something. They'll kind of like do these run-on sentences and stuff like that. Like right here you have, there were 2 cupcakes in Philip Parker's lunch bag, and Albert got a Hershey bar with almonds, and Paul's mother gave him a piece of jelly roll that had little coconut sprinkles on the top. Guess whose mother forgot to put in dessert? So he talks about how, he's having a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. And at the end, he talks to his mother. And so he says, my mom said some days are like that, even in Australia. Like some days you can have, bad days. Even if you live in Australia, it can be a bad day. And so at the end, I kind of have like, my book got a little bit kind of like messed up a little bit because, children write on it and stuff. But yeah, I've had this copy for how many years? But that's another favorite of mine. And another favorite, I discovered this one through my youngest. I just love this book. It's such a cute book. So we got Room on the Broom. And so it's a witch who starts creating this broom, bigger broom, so she can go and have all of these animals with her on her broom. So it says the witch had a cat and a hat that was black and long ginger hair in a braid down her back. How the cat purred and how the witch grinned as they sat on their broomstick and flew through the wind. But how the witch wailed and how the cat spat. When the wind blew so wildly, it blew off the hat. And so she's trying to find her hat, and she ends up coming across this dog. And so the dog asks her, is there room on the broom for a dog like me? Yes, cried the witch, and the dog clambered on. And so she goes throughout the story, and she ends up finding all these strays. So she had the dog, and then she ends up losing her thing for her hair, and she goes and she finds this bird, and so she decides to go and keep the bird. So now she has a cat, dog, and a bird. And then she ends up finding this frog, And so she goes and she takes the frog and has the frog now. And then they go and they fall down and end up running into this dragon. And so all the animals scare the dragon off to save the witch. And it's such a cute story. And so she goes and she ends up creating a new room. And at the end you see they all have like their little seats. And it's such a cute book. I ended up buying her the board book because the other book kind of got ruined. So I ended up picking up another copy for her. So I have a copy, it's a hardcover copy, and then she has this board one that is a little bit more, it's a little more sturdy, it holds up a little bit better, but it's such a cute book. And they ended up making like a little short movie, and it ended up being on like Netflix for a little while. I don't know if it's still on there, but my youngest would go and watch the little movie that was associated with the book. And it's such a cute book. I really liked it a lot. So yeah, like I said, I liked it because the witch goes and she takes in all the animals, and then when you have the dragon that was going after her, the animals all stood up for her and protected her. So I thought it was really sweet. So yeah, it's such a cute book, and it's another one of my favorites. So there's like a few books that I liked over the years that I decided to keep because they're really cute. So in number 4, it says, double shot of espresso. Name a book that kept you on the edge of your seat from start to finish. I would say probably Pen Pal by J.D. Geisinger. This one here, if you don't know, this one's more of an erotic thriller. She had messed up on the marketing to this book. It doesn't have a like traditional happily ever after. So be on the lookout for that if you decide to delve into this book here. It like I said, I would consider it more of an erotic thriller. There's sex scenes in it, but it also is like a thriller. There's, you know, she thinks she's seeing a ghost and different things like that, and there's other things that tend to happen. That one kept me on the edge of my seat. I was not expecting the ending the way it did, but I'd say I really enjoyed that one. Also, I'd say any Karen Slaughter book. I've read like at least 2 or 3 Karen Slaughter books, and I always feel like they're kind of like keep me on the edge of my seat with those ones because they're very like harsh and graphic to me. Like they disturb me when I read them. And yeah, I feel like they kind of keep you on like on the edge of your seat. So number 5 says Starbucks. Name a book you see everywhere. Fourth Wing. I mean, Fourth Wing is usually pretty popular. Everybody's talked about it. I see it everywhere, like wherever I go. Like if I'm at Costco, I see the books. If I'm at Barnes & Noble, I see the books. So, I mean, they're pretty everywhere, all over the place. So number 6 is The Hipster Coffee Shop. Give a book by an indie author a shout out. Now, I had to go through my Goodreads, and I'd say there's 2 books that I would give a shout out because these are it's the same series from the author. So I have not seen her lately post on any of her social medias. I don't know if she's busy writing or if she's kind of given up on like posting her writing. I don't know. Or she's having any kind of like medical issues or something, but I haven't seen her in a while. And I really enjoyed these first 2 books from the author, and she was supposed to do a 3rd book in the series and it got pushed off. And I have no idea. It's been a couple years. I have no idea if she's going to ever write another book for the series, but I really enjoyed it. So we got Jillian Bondarchuk. There's these 2 books in the series that I really enjoyed. The first one is very much like Outlander. Like if you like the series of Outlander, it's historical fantasy. And the first one so reminds me of Outlander. So if you liked Outlander, you might like that story. It's a time travel romance. The heroine ends up getting trapped in you know, in like the 1800s or 1700s, around there. And so it was an interesting book. And then the sequel has the hero from the first book, his brother is in the second book, and that has to do with a witch, and she's scarred. She's a scarred witch. She almost was burnt to death by this like priest or pastor or whatever it was, where he, you know, was like, oh, and we need to burn her because she's a witch. So she survived that. And it's a really good story because he decides to marry her because her mother, the witch's mother, ended up saving his brother in the first book. So it was a blood oath, basically, that he swore to the witch. So he ended up marrying her daughter. And it was a really good book. I really enjoyed it. And I really was looking forward to the third book in the series. And so I think like maybe if more people picked up her books and read her, it might encourage her to like either, if she's still on her third book, to finish the third book, or, you know, if she hasn't written it yet, because maybe she's getting like a bit, maybe feeling bad because not a lot of people are reading her books. Like if more people read her books, maybe it would encourage her to kind of like continue on with her series, you know? But I really enjoyed those two books, and I really wish that she would write some more because I do like her writing. Number 7 is Oops, I Accidentally Got Decaf. Name a book you were expecting more from. Oh, there's definitely like at least 3 books that I've read recently within the last year or two where I was really disappointed in them. The first 2 books I would say is for Eliza MacArthur. There was the one book there, I think it was called Hold Fast. That one was so disappointing for me. I really was expecting a lot more from the author because I really liked her first book. I thought her first book was really good. You know, it was basically like Charlie Swan fan fiction. Like if you like Charlie Swan from Twilight, it was Bella's dad. If you really liked him, it's basically like a Charlie Swan fanfic of like him finding, like getting together with a woman and him finding love. I really love that one. Soft Flannel Hank was a really good story. And so when I got into Holdfast, I was expecting it to be better. And it just really disappointed me. And then when I delved into the second book in the, I want to say Elements of Pining series, I think that's what it was called, where the first book, like I said, the first book was Soft Flannel Hank. And when I delved into the second book, which was like Till All the Seas Run Dry, it was so disappointing for me. It was such a disappointing read. And it's a shame because I really, really loved the author's first book. But those last books that she's done, I don't know if she's just trying to get them out too fast. I don't know. But she needs to spend more time with her books because they just were not great reads. They just were not great for me. Very disappointing. And then also I would say the same thing for Juliet Cross. Like I really loved her Stay a Spell series, but then her last book was such a disappointment. It was such a disappointment for me because I felt like she was just catering too much to the TikTok crowd and having it to where the couple got together way too quickly, and then they started doing an investigative work, and I was like, what the fuck? And that was such a disappointing read for me. Yeah, I really, really, really disliked that book. I've thought about like rereading it and say like, do I still have the same feelings for it that I did before? But I got a feeling that I will, or I'll hate it even more. But I really just did not like that book. It was such a disappointment for me. And I had so much writing on that last book. And some authors choke. Some authors do. They choke. They don't know how to continue on. Or they write these characters and then they don't know what to do with the characters, you know? Sometimes that happens with books. It's like they write all these different characters and then they don't know what to do with this other character, you know? So that was disappointing for me. That was so disappointing. So number 8's The Perfect Blend. Name a book or series that was both bitter and sweet, but ultimately satisfying. You know what? I decided to write down the Good Girl series by Kerrigan Byrne. I'd say that it's bittersweet only for the fact that that fucking author chose to not finish off the fucking series. She had at least 2 or 3 books to finish off that series, and she chose not to. Instead, she decided to go onto her high horse and start complaining that people weren't liking the stuff she was promoting, which she was basically promoting AI. And so it really disappointed me that she coughed up this really nasty attitude, and she kept doing these author like duo stuff where she was writing with someone else and the books were not that great. And so I to me, I just was like, lady, go back to what you're good at. Historical romance. Just do some historical romance. Just finish off that fucking series. And she chose not to do it. So it really pissed me off. And it made me say, fuck you. I'm not reading any more of your books. So like I said, it's bittersweet. I love the series. I really loved that book series. Better than the other book series that she kept like, you know, that everybody kept highlighting and promoting. I really liked the Good Girl series. But like I said, she stopped writing those books. She was at least 2 or 3 more books that she was supposed to do. So she obviously got bored and decided not to finish it off. And I'm like, why say it's going to be 6 or 7 books when you're not going to do it? Just don't even like say that, you know, like at least like say like, oh, I want to try for like 3 books in a series. It could be more, but you know, never give a fucking definite number, because then you're like was it J.R. Martin or whatever the fuck his name is? George R. Martin, is that what it is? That did the fucking like oh, what the hell is it called again? The I can't remember the name of the series, but it's like he didn't finish off his series. And it's like 10 years later and he's still saying like, oh, he's going to finish it. And I'm like, no, you're not, dude. Just say that you're not going to finish it off, you know? So it's the same thing. Like, don't go and put yourself out there too much to where you're like, oh, I'm going to do a 10-book series, and then you don't finish off the whole 10 books. It's like, don't say that then. You know, don't go and give your audience this like anticipation and then you don't follow through, you know? God, I can't remember. Game of Thrones, that's what it is. Game of Thrones. Damn, how I couldn't remember it. I never got into the TV series. I never got into the books, but it's like, dude, just say that you're out of ideas. Just say you're out of ideas. I have no more ideas for that series. I know I said I was going to finish it, but I can't come up with anything else to finish off the series, and I'm sorry. That's all you guys do. That's all you got to do. And he doesn't say it. Instead, he keeps trying to like, oh no, I'm going to finish it off. No, you're not. So it was the same thing with her, where I was pissed off and I was like, first, you go and you don't finish off your historical romance series when you say you were supposed to. Then you go and you cough up a fucking attitude because people are on you to not use AI for covers or art or writing your stories or whatever it is. And you cough up a fucking attitude. Nope, I'm not going to read you anymore then. So like I said, bittersweet series because I do like it, but I don't like the author anymore. I don't like her attitude, and I don't like the fact that she didn't finish off the series. It's fine the way it is. It's fine. The last book ended. I'm like, it was fine. You didn't, you know, it didn't end on a cliffhanger or anything. So like I said, it was fine. But yeah, it just really infuriates me that the author chose not to finish off her series. Yep. So number 9 is an Irish pub song by the Rumjacks. So it says a book that is misunderstood. I have no idea what I would put in this. I honestly don't. I have no idea what I would think a book would be misunderstood. I don't know. I couldn't think of anything for this prompt. I would say, like, if you have a book that you've read that you felt like it has been misunderstood, let me know down below in the comment section. But I really couldn't come up with anything for this one here. I don't know. I just couldn't come up with anything. But yeah, that's it for this video here. Let me know, you know, if you don't want to do the tag, but if you maybe want to answer some of the questions, you know, is there anything that maybe you've read that was a series or whatever it is, and it just was very, like, disappointing for you? Like, maybe either the last books, or maybe you have an author that you really loved their books, and they never finished off a series for you. Like, let me know down below in the comment section if you ever have run across that. But yeah, that's it for this video here. Have yourselves a good day. Take care of yourselves, be kind to each other, and I'll see you all on the next video. All right, bye.